Hello and welcome. In this video we will give you an overview of the staff management module and demonstrate its functionality and purpose. The main purpose of functionality of staff management is the planning and the rostering, creating schedules for the employees. Then you have the hour registration, where the employees can clock in and clock out, and so forth. Then it's the conversion of work hours to salary or to salary hours. This is where the system can convert registered time to overtime, to normal daytime hours, and so forth, and either accept the hours automatically or alert the manager if there are exceptions that they need to deal with. Then you have the employee communication, where the employee can request a vacation, request to take on a shift, or to exchange a shift with communication to the supervisor and vice versa. Then the cost analysis, the cost of the roster in comparison to the planning, and finally exporting the hours to the salary system. This module is not a salary module as such, it's more about the hour planning and giving the user an estimated cost and comparing that estimate to budget. Let us start with an overview of the role center. This is the supervisor's role center, and he or she has selected a location. In this case, it is the Kronos activity location. The queues give the manager a good overview of what is going on. At this point, we have a good status, with no time entries or salary entries to deal with, either by accepting them or rejecting them. These would be any exceptional entries that the system did not accept automatically because they were not according to schedule. We will see if there are open time entries. This is an employee that clocked in this morning, but they have not clocked out yet, so that will be an open entry. We have here then the alerts, and we have 2 employees who have not shown up yet, even though they are supposed to be working now on the day shift. I will get a quick overview of which employees have not shown up, and we can issue a warning if the employees have not shown up at a certain time. We can send a notification email to let the manager know that certain employees have not arrived. This is, for example, important in hospitality, where you may have scenarios where a certain number of employees is required, so you may have to call the employees or deal with the situation fast. Then you have budget adjustments. This is where the system suggests an increase or decrease in the number of staff according to a range of factors. We can look at that later. Then we have the warning section, where we can issue warnings. It's entirely up to the operation what kind of warnings are issued. There could, for example, be a warning when overtime hours are going over a certain budget and so forth. This is something that the user defines. Then we have the section which shows us requests coming from the employees. This could be a request for a work assignment or a work assignment which we have asked the employees to work and they have rejected. So we get a list of rejections. We can have an overview of shift exchanges that have been made, and the supervisor must confirm these exchanges before they take effect. And then we have requests from the employees, such as vacation requests, shift requests, any request that the employee initiates. The supervisor, however, initiates the assignment requests. In the role center, we have an overview of the current day. which employees are working on today's shift. We see that only Linda has arrived. Then we have a summary of the hours that gives us the total accepted hours for the current month and current week. So far this month I have not started using this, so I do not have any accepted hours yet. And then I have this list of my employees in the current work location. This list includes all employees, and I have a quick access to various functionalities. For example, if I needed to call an employee because they are late and so forth, I can just click on the phone number here and call the employee from here. Also, we have here access to various other functionality. There are quick actions such as adding an employee to a shift. We can also open the current roster. We can change location, and then there are various analysis options. Then we have access to the time acceptance, an overview of all hours, and clock ins and clock outs, and then from here we could either reject or accept. We have access to the list of employees and work with employees. We have access to all rosters, both from the past and in the future. And we have access to the vacation planner. And then we have access to the role budgets. The role budgets are especially important for the planning of the work, because based on roles and shifts, we define how many people we need for each role on each weekday. I'm going to select the day shift here. Of course, we can then make adjustments for a specific date. So if we know that on a certain day we will need more people, we can do the adjustments. Most importantly, the system can also auto-generate these adjustments according to various parameters or information from the system. We will get back to that later. So, this is the main functionality in the Role Center. I will start by looking at the planning part. As mentioned, we have the role budgets that are the first thing to set up. How many employees do we need for each shift? Then we have the rosters. I can either open the roster overview from here or just open the current roster from here, so we could just open the roster for the month of June. This is the plan for the current month, and I can view the roster matrix based on a month, or if I want to compress the view, I can pick a week within the month to compress and make it easier to work with. I could also look at the whole month. When we look at the month, we will see that the last days of the previous month as well. We will also see the staff for the next month, so we do not have to switch between rosters when we're managing it, and the start of the month and the end of the month. In the roster, we see the people who are working in this location and who we have included in the roster. Also, here we have the total section, and this total section currently gives us the role budget. The role budgets tell us how many people we have assigned and how many people we should assign. So all the OKs here mean that we have filled out the role budget correctly. Otherwise, we would see if we were missing or over planning people. Also from here, we can add various information. In this case, we wanted to see the weather forecast as part of the planning, because our operation may depend on the weather. Could be more people or less people depending on the weather. And then we can also pull in values from other locations in the solution. In this case, I'm looking at the therapists in a spa. I want to see their total assignments for the day and I want to see the utilization of the resources. These are just KPIs that I can pull into the view, and this could also be any kind of information, for example from the retail, warehouse, purchasing, or receiving. In the hotel solution, we can also view here room occupancy, housekeeping status, and so forth. Basically put, in this view we can view any kind of information we want to see while at the planning stage. When I'm doing the planning, I'm normally dealing with short codes. Short codes are the role and the shift. TD in this case stands for therapist on a day shift. I can also enter times like this, 14 to 18, which means that this person's key role is therapist, and then just the system assumes that I'm assigning that person as a therapist for this time. I can either assign people based on times or just based on shifts. I can use the shortcode to assign or to set the time. I can also define what I'm seeing in the total section, and can also decide if I do not need the total section. I can eliminate it from the view just to make it simpler. When I'm happy with the planning, I confirm the roster, and the roster can send out emails to the employees with a roster plan. Of course, I can change rosters after they've been confirmed, because as we know, life is not set in stone, and we know anything can change. So we can still change the roster at any point, even if it has been confirmed. At this point, when we confirm, we can see the total values. We can see the amount scheduled, we can see the budget comparison. In this case, the schedule is the budget, but it could also be a budget from the finance part. So we would be immediately comparing the planning cost to the finance salary budget. Then we keep track of what the planning amount was when we confirmed, because we could still change that value. Finally, we will get the actuals when we get to the salary or time registration. We will get the actual hours, estimated actual cost. So we would start to be able to compare. As part of the comparison, we can view the cost analysis. And the cost analysis is going to give us summaries down to the people. Cost of the person, cost of the work codes, in this case normal and overtime, cost of the shift, cost of the roles, and we can see these as planned figures or as actual figures when we start to get this, and then the difference between planned and actuals. So this was the planning part, and then we go on to time registration. Time registration takes place in the point of sale. Normally you would do the clock in, clock out at the point of sale station. Of course there could also be a dedicated clock in station, so it does not have to be a point of sale, but could be a dedicated device only for clocking in and clocking out. If it is running on a point of sale, you can add this button here, staff management / time registration, and this would be the screen presented to the employee. When employees clock in, they can swipe the cards or they can enter their ID. You could also have a password that they must enter, but otherwise it just shows the employee and greets the employee at this point. In this case, we have already clocked in, but now this employee can also have access to various functionality. They can view the roster plan, they can view their requests, any active requests they may have, and they can view their shift exchanges, for example. They have various functions here. They can also request a shift exchange, and they can request a day off, which I will do now. This employee is going to request a day off, and they will select the date that they want to have a day off on, the 17th of June, the National Day of Iceland. Do you wish to register a day off request? Yes, I really need a vacation. Enter. It's as simple as that. And now they can view their requests. They will see that they have an active request and that it's waiting for a response. In this case, the employee is also going to clock out, so they are leaving at the same time. The system says goodbye, and they have done that communication part here. What happens in the role center now, if we go back to the time registration and how the supervisor would deal with this, both the request and the time registration, the supervisor gets notified here that the employee has requested a day off, and they can accept or reject this. If they need to check what's going on, they see who are assigned to the shifts. Can I really afford to lose this person from work? Well, that's the decision they have to make. In this case, well, I'm just going to accept it. So at this point, the system will automatically convert the roster entry so that the employee is not working on this particular day. So we have dealt with one of the employee's requests, and if we see now here, we have an open time entry. This is Linda's clock in, clock out today. She came here at 9:45 and she left at 10:49, so she only works for an hour approximately. This is not according to our plan, and therefore this is why we must manually accept this hour registration. Yeah, we're going to accept it. She went home early, and now we have an okayed entry, which is Linda's work time. Normally, what happens is when employees clock in or clock out, the system automatically accepts the hours if they are according to the plan. But if they're not according to the plan, they would show up in these open entries, and the manager would then have to deal with them. Now let's go back to the clock in part, just to see what the employee can do here. The next time the employee clocks in or uses the employee portal, they can see their requests and they can see that it was accepted. They will also see it in the roster. Let's look at the roster and the line for Linda Fritz. If we look at her hours on the 17th, we can see here that it's been changed to vacation. This actually means that the day has been deducted from the roster, and in this case, the system suggests that we need to add one more therapist on Friday, the 17th, the National Day of Iceland. So what I've done now is to show you the core functionality. And then, based on all the information that we have in the system, we can start to analyze our figures. We can see the analysis based on planned figures, or actual figures once we start to get the hours. We can drill down. We can see the cost based on employees or work codes or shifts. This is the same as the roster analysis, but here we are just doing the same thing based on month. And you can see you can also do these views based on weeks. It's actually the same view. You can also compare locations, but I'm not going to show you here because you first must define which location you want to compare. You can also do this same analysis based on salary periods if you have specific salary periods. The final functionality of the stock management module would be the exporting of the confirmed hours to the salary system. What happens is that the manager at some point can close the period, and when they close the period, it is closed today, this means that all time entries must have been accepted or rejected, so that the system is in complete balance. Only then, with complete balance, can the salary entries be exported to the salary system. When we say salary export, we are not talking about the actual amounts, but about the hours and the conversion of hours to overtime and daytime hours and so forth. A manager would get an overview of all locations and see at which date they have been closed. When you do the export, you can only export a period that has been closed. We would see the location status. When did they close last time? Who is responsible? We could call them or email if we want or need to ask about something. And we can see if they have any entries still open that they must deal with. We can export the current period. When everything is settled, everybody has closed the period, we can define what period we're going to export. And it will be sent to the external salary system or an internal salary system in Microsoft Business Central. So these are the processes we support in staff management. Thank you.